Hello, what's going on, everybody? Kevin Martin coming to you live here on this beautiful, chilly evening here in central Pennsylvania. First of all, the eye. I didn't realize how bad it was. So I'll talk about the title of this. And the title is Congratulations, but please learn English. Okay? Do you want me to talk about my eye first, or do you want me to talk about what my live video is about? Do you want me to talk about my eye first, or about what the live video is about? What do you want me to talk about first? Let me know in the comments. What's going on, Mike Daniels, Tori Gicking, Naomi Haldeman? What's going on, everybody? Good to have you guys in the building. So, do you guys want me to talk about the eye first, or do you guys want me to talk about the title? Okay, so with my eye, so a friend of mine has just purchased a sport bike from a dealership in a nearby town, which it's a dealership in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He purchased a motorcycle, and he had about an hour and a half, hour and 45-minute drive home, but he doesn't have a trailer to trailer his bike. So he knows me as someone that rides. He called me and said, "Hey, listen, Kevin, would you be able to ride my bike from Philadelphia back home to my garage? Would you be able to ride my bike for me? I'll drive. I'm down here now. You can come down and ride my bike back." I said, "Yeah, no problem. That's fine. I got you. No problem. I'll hook you up." It was a cold ride. But what happened? So I was riding, and I come up over first of all, the helmet that he had bought with it was outside, attached to the bike, was outside, like chained. He had it chained to the bike. And because the dealership had already closed, so he had to have the bike parked outside. So the helmet was very cold, okay? So the helmet was very cold. So when I began to ride and it began to heat up on the inside, the outside is cold, but the inside is warm, and the visor began to fog up. So what normally every rider does is you open the visor and the condensation goes away. Then you shut the visor and you keep riding. Well, unfortunately, I was riding kind of through some construction area, and about the time I flipped up my visor, there was a semi-truck that was coming from the other direction. We didn't collide, no accident or anything happened, but he was coming from the other side, and he just all this dust and gravel just kicked up. It all got inside the visor. It got inside my eyes. I got home. I rinsed my eyes out. I woke up this morning, which was 2 days later, and there must be a dirt, or I don't know what it is. Something. I don't know what it is, but that's what happened. So I'm hoping that goes down. It's really ugly. It's really, really ugly. So that's what happened. So anyway, let me go ahead and hopefully it goes down soon. I've washed it and I've rinsed it, and I've put some drops in it and stuff like that. So I'm hoping it goes down. It's just really, really, really ugly. Okay, it's really, really ugly. So it don't help for the ladies, that's for sure. It doesn't help for the ladies, that's for sure. But anyway, it's okay. There's more to life than romance. Or is there? So listen. So I'm going to talk about my title, and the title is Congratulations, but please learn English. Now, I want to say congratulations to all of our amazing high school players that signed letters of intent today. So what a letter of intent is when a young person, a high school player that's going into NCAA sports, or what is it, NCAA or NCAA? I'm not really sure too much about the letter of intent, but I know what they are. It's when an individual signs a letter saying, "This is where I intend on spending the next 4 years, and this is who I intend on signing my contract with to play college ball," and you go off to that college. So this is what I'm seeing. And I'm seeing a trend or a pattern with many of our inner city and urban youth, okay? Many of our inner city and urban youth that are signing these contracts. It's so disappointing to see a young man with so much potential but can't even speak English. Meaning, you speak with such such bad grammar that I can't even understand what you're saying. I don't understand. Such bad grammar, broken sentences, poorly constructed sentences, such bad grammar that I, as somebody that's interested in what you have to say about your speech or where you're going or what your letter of intent entails, when you speak so uneducated, I can't even understand. How is it that a young man goes through 12 years of school, and they can't even put together a sentence? Okay? So, and it bothers me because it's most prevalent with the young urban youth, young black urban youth. And it's with basketball, it's with football, and it just really breaks my heart. And what I would love to do is, how can we have a solution where our young men that come out of high school educated, knowing how to form a sentence and how to speak properly and eloquently. It's not a white thing, it's not a black thing, it's not a purple thing, it's an American thing. If you can't even there's NFL players today that have played, that have gone through school, that have gone through college, that are in the NFL, that still can't put a sentence together with proper grammar. It's just really sad, and I'm just saying how poor our education system really is. I mean, in high school, should there be a mandatory speech communication class? Should there be a mandatory communication class? I don't know. But it really bothers me when I see young, black, African-American athletes of color that are signing letters of intent. Okay, they've just graduated high school and they're signing letters of intent. But they can't even put a sentence together, and they speak with such bad, awful, poor grammar that I can't even understand. I got to really strain to really understand what they're saying. It just breaks my heart. It really does. It really breaks my heart to see those type of youth that are being pushed into society without even being able to put a sentence together. And a lot of those kids go on to college, to learning in college and learning more about speech communication and articulating their language and creative writing, etc., etc. But the problem is that we need, in our high schools, I feel like the bar is held so low for these high school athletes that they come out not having learned anything, okay? Not having learned anything at all. And it's just really sad. And look, I don't know what the answer is. But it pains me to see a young man, especially a young man of color, sitting there signing his letter of intent. And let's not even start talking about wardrobe and having your face and being, having a face, your facial hair well trimmed up and having your teeth brushed and, a nice professional wardrobe on that. Look, I'm a young man and I'm going to sign with a D1 school. When you sit there slouched down in the chair, you've got your coach sitting beside you that's wearing a suit and tie, and he's all, he's got his, facial hair very tidy, speaking very eloquently, and he gives you the mic, and you're sitting there slouched down, and you're speaking very poorly. It's just really looks really bad for our community, and it really bugs me. It really, really bugs me. Like, this is what we're putting into society? What did you spend the last 12 years doing. And it just sucks. And so that's the message that I have for our young men, especially our young men of color, is we have to do much, 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 much better. We have to do much, much better. We have to dress to impress. We have to speak to impress. We've got to talk to impress. We've got to walk to impress. If we really believe in who we are and who we are as a people, we need to embrace that. We can't keep going around saying, yeah, this is Black History Month, Black Power, Black Excellence, Black Don't Crack, yeah, hoorah. And then we're sitting there putting up these athletes of color, student athletes of color, that are signing with D1 and Ivy League schools, and they can't even put together a sentence and speak with such poor grammar that it's not even legible to most people. To the average American, it's not even, you can't even understand it. It's just really sad. We have to do better. We have to do better, and I hate it when I see a young, ambitious athlete of color with so much ambition that's signing his life away signing in the next 4 years away to a D1 school to play college football or college basketball, and you can't even put on some decent clothes or put together a decent sentence. That's sad. And that's really is sad. And I'm gonna keep talking about this because something needs to change. Something needs to change. What's going on?
What's up, man?
All right, so this is the way we're gonna do this, okay? So I'm gonna moderate, and the reason why I accepted you to come on is because I have a couple different questions for you. Okay. All right. Number one. Okay. All right. And I know you kind of have a habit of, being, pretty aggressive. So I'm going to moderate this thing and we're going to have a civil discussion. Does that work with you?
I don't have a habit of doing anything but enjoying the discussion.
Does that work with you? We'll have a civil discussion. I'll moderate, and we'll do some commentary here. What do you think? What do you say?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so listen. So how do you feel when you see a young athlete of color, student athlete of color, sitting there getting ready to sign the next 4 years of his life away to a D1 school, going away to play D1 ball, and he can't even put a sentence together, or speaks with such poor grammar, such poor English, that it's hard to even understand what he's saying? How do you feel when you see that?
So I have a kid. His name.
No. I just want to know. I just want to know how. No. I just want to know how you feel.
You got to let me answer your question. Emil Ekiyor is a kid who just signed a letter of intent this year to the University of Alabama. Okay. He's a blue chip athlete, top recruit out of the state of Indiana, and he is going to Alabama. And he is one of many that I've seen today who I've been watching ESPN all day, and I don't know if you can give me an example of specifically who you're talking about or what kid, what school. I haven't seen. What I've seen is a bunch of young kids who are obviously their first time in the spotlight. They've probably never had cameras on them in this fashion before, certainly not national. I think everyone from ESPN to Fox Sports was covering some of these top 5 kids. I've never seen. I would assume they're probably a little bit intimidated or probably a little bit camera shy.
But answer the question. Answer the question. How do you feel? How do you feel when you see a young brother that is signing away with a D1 school or a D2 school, going away to an Ivy League school, and they can't even put a sentence together? They can't even put a sentence together with proper English. I'll give you this. You as a young man, you speak very well. You articulate, you speak very, very well. Okay?
Okay, we'll have to plug it in, sweetie.
You speak very well. Maybe even better than I speak. Okay? So my question is, okay,
is how do you feel when you see a student athlete that can't even put a sentence together? This is a grown man, okay? Grown man, 18, 19 years old, that can't even put a sentence together. How do you feel when you see that?
When I see a kid who speaks with broken English and is speaking in a way that isn't articulate or can't put his sentences together, I think it's an indictment on our education system in America. It's a problem that so many students in our schools, particularly in our schools of color, like you said about 5-10 minutes ago, are in underfunded schools that put very little premium on proper learning, especially if you're a gifted athlete. You are oftentimes greased through and put through the program and given passing grades so that you can stay eligible to play or perform, and that's regardless of your performance in the classroom. That's disappointing. You're not going to get any argument from me as it relates to a young man.
I'm not asking for arguing. I'm just asking how you feel. How does it make you feel?
And I just said it's disappointing.
So it disappoints you. Okay. So most of these kids that you're talking about underfunded schools, most of these kids, it's fair to assume that most of these kids, most of the professors and faculty and school administration is African American, or is that represents the community more often than not, right? More often than not. I mean, you go to the inner cities, most of the teachers and the staff and the faculty are Black, right? Most times, right?
I don't know what schools you're going to, but I very rarely, and I work in schools on a daily basis, I've rarely seen schools where there's even one Black male teacher. I don't. Most institutions of education from K through 12 are usually staffed by young white females.
Okay. Just hold that point. How does that make you feel?
How does it make me feel that there is a lack of African American male teachers?
Or people that represent the community?
Well, that's disappointing. There needs to be more people of color reflected in the education system.
Okay. And why
go ahead.
And why do you think, why is there that the inner city schools have a lack of Black leadership? Why is that?
Well, that's a complex question. I mean, that's a lot to unpack.
Or why do you think it is, in your opinion?
You would have to go back to Brown versus Board of Education, and how after the desegregation of schools and the implementation of children of color being bused to primarily, white schools, Brown v. Board of Education said that you could no longer keep Black kids out of better schools. And what happened was you desegregated the schools, but you didn't desegregate the teachers, meaning that the teachers that were primarily in African American schools lost their jobs. And what happened was most of the students, you're making faces. I don't understand why you're making faces. Everyone knows that when you desegregated the schools and children of color began flowing into primarily white schools, they shut down the Black schools, and the teachers who were Black teachers no longer had jobs. That was a phenomenon all across the United States. If you go back and look at history, following that ruling, Black teachers were systematically phased out of the education process. And then as a result of that, what happened was you had schools that were primarily staffed by white females. That's not a shocker. That's not, and that phenomenon is kind of continued on to today. You have what's called now a program called Teach for America. And what Teach for America does is it allows Ivy League students who are graduates of elementary education to go into inner city schools. And if they will commit to going to those schools and teaching for 3 or 4 years, then they get their loans, or their student loans, are all paid for. So what happens is you have an influx of highly educated and highly motivated teachers, but they are primarily white, infused or pumped into these schools, and they stay for 3 or 4 years, and then they go and then the next crop comes, and so on and so forth.
Okay. I appreciate your commentary on that. So what you're saying is the reason why there's a lack of black teachers in inner city schools is because many, many years ago when there was racism, the black teachers got fired, but the white teachers stayed, is what you're saying.
Well, I'm saying in part, one of the reasons why there is a lack of teachers of color has a historical precedent that goes all the way back to Brown versus Board of Education. I mean,
So,
Kevin, you've got to admit, you would admit that when the schools were desegregated and these children of color were then allowed to go to these schools that were all white, you know that the black teachers didn't go with them. You know that, right?
So how many years ago was this? How many years ago was this? This is segregate. How many years ago? It was before your time. I know that.
Yeah, it was before both of our time.
Okay, exactly. So my question is, there's been a whole another generation since then. Okay, most of the white professors in colleges are liberal. They're liberal. They're Democrats, and they're liberal. But you're saying, what your argument is the reason why there's a lack of black teachers in the community is because of a long time ago when there was slavery and black teachers got fired, losing their jobs. We never recovered from that. But there's this thing that blacks are so educated and, blacks are the most educated race. So my question is this: all these educated blacks, why are they not in the school system? Why aren't they applying? When I go to these inner city schools and I talk to some of these, administrators and stuff, and I talk to them and they say, look, Kevin, we would love to hire teachers of color. If we have a teacher of color that comes in, he's all the way to the top. We want teachers of color, but they're not applying. We go places to universities to try to recruit teachers of color, but they don't want to come. They don't want to come. There's no initiative there. We even offer to pay off student loans if they sign a 5-year contract with the school. So the problem is that we have our young black men, our young educated black men that are graduating from college that have no interest at all in going into the inner cities and being a voice and being a teacher to other young black boys and girls of color that look like them. My question is this. Why is there, if we care so much about the black community, we care so much about the black community, oh yeah, black power, black excellence, we care so much. Why are educated black men and women that are graduating from college with degrees in education not deciding to go into those schools and to set up camp and sign a contract to educate young black boys and girls that look like them? But you're arguing about why the teachers were taken out in the first place. But my question is, if we have young boys and girls that are there that need us, that need representation, what are we doing? We as black people, the educated ones of us, what are we doing with our education? Why isn't it getting put back into the education system? Where's it going?
Well, I mean, I think you're hitting the nail on the head as far as your point. I can't argue that there is a lack of people of color in the educational system, and I just want to be clear, I wasn't saying that the Brown versus Board of Education is the sole reason why there are no black teachers. The truth of the matter is, elementary education, the educational field teachers are underfunded. Yeah. They're underpaid. And a lot of graduates or a lot of kids
but underfunded by whom?
Their careers.
Underfunded by whom?
Huh?
Underfunded by whom? The government or the state?
Well, teachers don't make a great deal of money. Elementary education teachers in inner city schools typically don't make a lot of money.
Is it up to the state? Is it up to the state or is it up to the federal government? It's up to the state, right?
Yeah. I mean,
okay. So
unless
you look at Chicago,
right? Go ahead.
But okay. So you're pretty much saying these schools are underfunded, which I'm not disagreeing with you there. But most of the time, why is it that most of the time the underfunded schools, the most underfunded schools are under Democratic leadership? Why is that?
Okay, you're going off into a whole nother tangent now.
It's not that. What I'm trying to say is this. What I'm trying to say is this. Why aren't black people, Oprah Winfrey, NFL players, NBA players, why is there a shortage of blacks that are rich and powerful? Why is there a shortage of money that is going into the inner city schools? Why is that?
Now I have to respectfully reject that premise because
no. Hold on. Let me say what my premise is here. Let me say what my premise is. I know what you're going to say. Oh well, LeBron James and he did this and he did that. Athletes only do certain amount of things for photo ops and recognition. That's it. Look at Donald Trump. I'm going to say this, right? Look at Donald Trump, right? Or Eric Trump, for example. A family which I've come to know, which I've come to love, which I've come to respect, okay? These are such selfless people that have dumped millions and millions and millions of dollars into the inner cities, but never had a camera phone on them, never had a camera crew follow them, never submitted a letter to the editor, never tried to get it on the news. The first family, the Trumps, Eric, Don Jr., Lara, Donald Trump, all of those people have donated millions and millions and millions of dollars into inner cities, into nonprofits for kids with cancer, things that we don't even know and we will never know. But
okay, and that may be true, Kevin.
Listen, but let me finish what I'm saying.
I don't know that for a fact, but that
well,
may
of course
be
not.
true.
But let me finish what I'm saying. So why is it though? That the only time that we hear, right, that every time an athlete, especially a black athlete or an athlete of color, does something good for the community, he's got cameras following, we've got camera crews, we've got editors, we've got news people, and it's a show. You see it with LeBron James, you see it with Cam Newton, you see it with with Chris Bosh, you see it with all of these people. When we do something, it's got to be world news. I mean, you see it with Colin Kaepernick, it's got to be all over Instagram. But why is there a shortage of money that is being pumped into the inner cities for these inner city schools? We've got the NFL, which is a majority black, but we still have inner city schools that are underfunded. Why aren't they helping fund those schools?
Okay, so two quick examples that are totally in refutation of your premise that that are in total refutation, total rejection of your premise that athletes only do things for the camera and that they're not doing enough. Just two quick examples. I just want to give you
refutation? Refutation?
Yes.
Never heard that word. I'm going to look it up right now. Never. We'll look it up. I like that word. I like it. REFUTATION. I like it, man. You're teaching me things, man. I want to get like you, bro.
Stick with me, baby. I'm gonna get you right. But what I wanted to say was, if you look at, I want to give you two specific examples. Number one, Deion Sanders. Number one, Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders created an academy down in Atlanta, specifically centered around children of color. No one knows about it. It's not a hype. He doesn't.
Well, you know about it. You know about it.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you why. Give me a second. It wasn't hyped. It's not on camera. It's not any of that. Secondly, a fellow conservative, at least as far as I know, Coach Tony Dungy, our former coach here in Indianapolis. He created an organization that I'm a part of called All Pro Dads. What we do is go into schools, mentor the kids who don't have fathers, whose fathers aren't in the picture, or don't have or people to help them study. We come alongside those kids from kindergarten all the way through graduation to mentor them, to give them a positive male role model, to help them succeed in life. So I get what you're saying about the lack of African-American male teachers in the classroom. You're not going to get an argument from
female too.
Yeah, female too, but I just feel like we need some positive male role models to go right along with what you said about these athletes who can't speak. They need to be around some black men who can speak to rub off on them. So you're not going to get an argument from me on that. Where I would just
no, I wasn't looking for an argument. I wasn't looking for
Yeah.
an argument. I just wanted to know how you felt about that. Now, I will ask you this, and this is kind of going below. I'm just going to say this. It says, Kevin, why don't you commend black women who was voted as the most educated women in America? Well, he says, Kevin, why don't you commend black woman who was voted as the most educated woman in America side by side with white men? So I think what he's trying to say is, Kevin, why don't you commend black women who were voted as the most educated women in America side by side with white men, right? Alongside of white men. I think that's what he's trying to say. Here's the deal. We as a community, we talk about and we pride ourselves with being so educated, and we're the most educated people. So here's a guy that's saying that black women are as educated as white men, which I'm not disputing that at all. I'm not disputing that at all. I think there's a lot of intelligent women of color out there. But my question is why aren't we getting that those educated women of color in our society? Where they at? Where they at? Like, I want to know, where they at?
They're attorneys. They're in the political field. They're doctors and lawyers in the medical field. I mean, there's a vast.
No. I mean, no. This is what I mean. Educated as far as
education field.
Yeah. In the like, why is it? Why is it that I go to inner city schools like Chicago, and I go to different inner cities like Chicago and stuff like that, and obviously there is some women of color there. A lot of the women of color there they might be like a part-time, they might be like a tutor, they might be like a fill-in or something like that, but it's not like they got a 5 or a 10-year contract. So my question is, all these educated black women that are coming out of college with degrees in education, where are they going?
I'd have to pull up the statistics. It's been a while since I checked, but I would suggest to you that most people going to college aren't majoring in education. It's probably not one of the top 5, I dare even say top 10 majors in college. There's just no attraction for kids coming out of college or for kids coming out of high school to go into the education field. Number one, like I said, it's underfunded, and teachers just don't make that much. You're talking about coming out of college with $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 in debt, and starting off as a teacher, maybe making what, $40,000 a year? That's just not lucrative enough for them to do it. So most of your quality teachers, if you are someone who's graduated from an Ivy League school and you are a teacher, if you aren't going into an inner city school under the Teach for America program, you're probably going to one of these private schools or Christian colleges in more affluent neighborhoods and taking a teaching job there. Just the really good teachers just aren't going to the inner city.
And why is that? Why is that?
Well, like I said, it's just the major. There are not enough kids majoring in education, and then they're just the pay and the incentive to become a teacher just isn't there.
Well, I think that the problem,
we've got to, and not to cut you off, but we've got to speak more in these types of ways about black men and women stepping up to the plate and going into these schools and teaching these kids. I mean, what the discussion you and I are having now, that's the type of discussion that needs to be had by high school counselors who are counseling kids on what majors to go into, by recruiters at top tier universities who are recruiting kids. We need to be on these campuses insisting that you at least go 2 or 3 years back into your community and put back into it some equity, some educational equity for the kids from the community that you look like. I'm not going to argue against that.
Yeah, well, and I think, okay, so I think we agree on a lot of the same things here. However,
you're just bad-mouthing the athletes.
No, I'm not bad-mouthing the athletes either. I just don't like to see athletes that are getting ready to sign for a D1 school that can't even that are getting $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 of their college paid for, and they can't even put a sentence together, man. That sucks, dude.
But they've been greased through the program. You know it. You know, if you're a blue chip, listen, I grew up around blue chip athletes. And when you are the star, when you are getting recruited to Alabama and Notre Dame and Clemson and USC, and you're on the verge of winning state championships for your high school, they ain't tripping if you get an F in English. They're going to go talk to that English teacher and try to get that English teacher. No, that's doing it.
But is that fair to the
kids.
athlete?
Huh?
Is it fair to the athlete?
Hell no, it's not. Absolutely.
So pretty much what you're saying, okay, so so with our discussion here, so pretty much what you're saying is our inner city schools. So you're pretty much saying that our inner city schools, along with us as a community, we are doing a disservice to our own community, is what you're saying. So you're saying that these college institution and student athletes programs are doing a disservice to our African American student athletes, because that's what we're talking about, by holding the bar so low that way they can get what they want, sacrificing an education. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. Somebody on your feed just said not just inner city students. I think his name was Ernan Hill, and I have to agree with him. This is across the board.
I'm not talking about. Listen, listen. Whatever people say, it's not just white people or whatever. I'm talking about.
Yeah, but I mean, you would agree that if you are a coach of a school and you have blue chip athletes who are on the verge of bringing revenue to your school, notoriety in the form of state championships, and they are failing, that the teachers and the coaches aren't looking at. I'm saying that this happens across the board. I understand we're focusing right now on athletes of color. I'm just saying that the student athlete, the blue chip 5-star student athlete across the board, regardless of color, is greased through his 12 years. From the moment he's shown that he can dunk a ball or run a 40-yard dash in 4.4 or bench press 225, he's getting greased through his 12 years of elementary, middle school, and high school. And unfortunately, those who come out on the worst end of that are oftentimes athletes of color.
Okay. Well, here's the thing, right? I'm looking up something here. An interesting fact I want to run by you real quick here. Okay, let me just run by something here. Let me see here. Professor salary. Okay, there we go. Okay, so look. Okay, so here's the deal. Okay, I want to talk to you about this, right? What somebody said is true. Most black women, right? Most black women that do major in educate, that do major in, medical field or whatever, most of them don't go on to be doctors, okay? Most of them go on to working as a nurse or a registered nurse, or most of them go on to work as a nurse's assistant. If you go into hospitals, right, or doctors or hospitals, especially in the inner cities, you will see that hospital flooded with black nurses assistants. That's just the way it is. The doctors are white, the nurses are white, but the nurses assistants are black, right? Most of the black women are going on to be nurses assistants within hopes of becoming a nurse, right? The median salary starting for a nursing assistant is between $26,000 and $30,000 a year, right?
Okay.
You want to know what the median salary for a professor is at the university?
What is it?
$72,000 a year. That's median pay. $72,000. Okay. You teach throughout the year. Okay. You get all kinds of benefits. You get your summers off. You still get paid for your summers. You get your summers off and you still get paid for your summers. So you just told me that black women, right? Women of color aren't interested in going into the inner cities to be professors because it's not lucrative enough. When in fact, it's actually more lucrative and more of a comfortable chair to be a professor than it is to be a nurse's assistant. You get what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't make any sense. You'll make more money as a professor, have a better life with more benefits. There's more job security in being a professor than there is just simply being a nurse's assistant.
Right. Well,
you get what I'm saying?
Right. But your argument assumes a couple things. First of all, it assumes that a person is interested in being a teacher as opposed to being in the medical field. I can't we can't get into the minds of all the people you're quoting in these statistics, but I would assume that someone who makes the decision to go into the medical field is far more interested in nursing, doctor, whatever, than they ever would be in the educational field. My major, my undergrad or my master's degree is in human resource management. So I don't have any desire to go into law, if that makes sense in the in the context of your question. It's
yeah, and pretty much what I'm trying to say here is that there's obviously a difference when there's like entry level education, right? So if you're a teacher, okay, and I think some people right here are just getting all over the $72,000 a year mark, which I obviously said in there. Which listen, for a teacher, it's between $36,000 and $55,000 per year. Okay,
starting out.
Yeah, but for a professor, for a tenure, and I'm kind of comparing that to someone that's going on to be a doctor, right? It's actually more lucrative than being a nurse. So pretty much being a nurse, being a professor with a 10-year contract, okay, a professor, right?
Yeah.
Very educated as a professor, because you don't really have to be very educated to be a regular teacher. Okay, if we're comparing to apples to here, if you would go in the education field with the goal of becoming a professor with a 10-year contract, okay, you're going to be looking at about between $60,000 and $70,000 a year. That's what you're going to be looking at, right?
Okay.
That's just the way it is. If you're a nurse, if you're going for a nurse, you'll be looking at around $60,000 a year. So that's around $10,000 less than what it is. So pretty much the medical field pays $10,000 less in that same segment than it does being a professor with a 10-year contract.
But you
so
would
what I'm
agree.
saying is it all comes out, it's all apples to apples. So what I'm trying to show here is that your argument is just not true. Because really, it would be more lucrative to be a professor, okay, or just as lucrative to be a professor as it is to be a nurse or a nurse's assistant.
But that would also assume that the person has an interest in being a teacher, which goes back to us in those formative years creating positive impressions around the teaching field. If you think about it right now, most kids don't aspire to be or look up to educators or teachers. Even our best and brightest students, if you ask them what they want to be, they'll say something like maybe police officer, astronaut, doctor, president of the United States, football player, NBA player. You rarely hear a kid. Whoops, sorry about that. You rarely hear a kid say that he wants to be a teacher, because there's really that has to be generated in a kid too. So if you're somebody coming out of high school and you're getting ready to decide what I want to be in life, yeah, money plays a part in it, but it also what you're interested in. If you're not interested in becoming a teacher, even though you would make more money, as you said, being a professor than a nurse, you'll still go to the nursing field, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, I guess this is what I'm trying to say to you. This is what I'm trying to say is what I'm trying to understand is why there are so many people that are graduating with degrees, especially women of color that are graduating, very, very smart, intelligent people that are graduating with these degrees in English or early childhood education or whatever it is, but we're not seeing it reinvested in our communities. Why is that? Why is it that white people, right, these white professors are more interested in coming to our inner city schools to teach than our own?
Well, I told you that. I told you that along with the desire to make a difference in challenging communities, a lot of teachers that go into inner city environments to teach are doing it from the Teach for America program. It's look that up. It's a gigantic program that offers that they will cover your loans if you go into those communities and teach
listen. I know. You keep talking. You keep you keep plugging this program, this Teach for America program.
Like, no, I'm not plugging it. It bugs me.
But what I'm trying to say is, why does it seem why does it seem like white professors and white teachers care more about Black and urban youth than our own young men, women, educators of color? I see that all the time. Like, I see that everywhere. The only people that are investing time and effort into these inner city kids are white administrators, are white professors, and white teachers. Why is that? The men and women of color, the ones that are there, they don't really care. They don't want to have anything to do with the inner city kids. Now, of course, they'll be up there and say, we need this and we need that and we need this, that, and the third. And they'll lobby the administration for things to say, this is what I did. They'll take the pulpit and say, look, this is what I did for the inner city kid program. But there are literally dozens of teachers, of white teachers, that are working around the clock because they love and care for these inner city kids so much because nobody else cares for them. Why is that? Why is it that white teachers and Caucasian men and women educators care more about inner city kids and inner city youth and giving inner city kids a chance at life and an opportunity to be successful? Why is it that they care more and put more time and effort into teaching and educating than our own young men and women educators of color? Why is that? Why is that?
I think that one of your viewers, a guy I'm looking at right now that's named Shakim Settler, he said in 4 words, Kevin, that isn't true. And that just isn't true. It's not true. It's not true that there isn't any interest or care or concern about African American kids by
Never
Black
listen,
people.
young man.
What
young
I'm
man.
telling you.
No, nobody's listen, young man.
Okay,
nobody said that. Nobody said that there isn't care.
But you gotta let me answer.
Yeah, yes, but you already told me. You already told me that the educators in inner city communities, which are mostly black and brown, are white.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes,
you also told me that there's a lack of interest to educate our young men. When there's actually there is a shortage of professors, of young professors of men and women of color that don't want to teach in the inner city schools because it's not lucrative enough. So you agree that there's a shortage, and you agree that there's a shortage because we don't want to teach there. So think about it. So automatically that makes the majority of professors and teachers white. That makes the majority of the professors and teachers that care white. Right? White. So how is the statement that I said false when there is more applications of white educators coming across the desk than Black educators? On Rate My Teacher in these urban colleges and universities, on Rate My Teacher, on Rate My Professor, there is more higher ratings coming in for the white teachers than there is for the. Let me finish what I'm saying. But mathematically speaking, yes, because there's more white professors and educators. The majority will always win. Like, you're trying to argue something here that doesn't make any sense. Like, you told me that there's a shortage of Black of Black educators in our education system within the inner cities. You also said that there is a lack of, what's the word? I can't think of the word. Not initiative, a lack of
interest.
Yes, that's the word. A lack of interest by our young men and women educators of the urban community. So there's a lack of interest there. Like, we don't want to go there. We don't want to teach. It doesn't pay enough. It's not lucrative enough. I want to get my money. I don't want to deal with that. So the only people that really care are whites. So why is it that white people, that white professors care more about educating urban youth than Black people do? Why is that?
You are hitting me with an interesting dichotomy there, and I don't know that I have the answer for it. There is a shortage of teachers of color, and we need to be held accountable for that. I'm not going to sit here and make excuses for that. The bottom line is that more children of color need to be educated by people of color, period. How we make that happen, as I said, we've got to continue having these kinds of conversations. We've got to continue, I don't want to say shaming people, but maybe shaming is the right word when we go on to college campuses and say, hey, why aren't you teaching? Why aren't you going back to the neighborhood and investing in the little brothers and sisters in the neighborhood in the form of being a teacher? I mean, that's a valid question to ask, brother. I'm sitting here listening to your argument, and I'm trying to formulate a reasonable punchback, and I can't really do it because we need to be more proactive. We need to take a more active role as teachers. I will say on the flip side of that coin, you cannot go into a black school, and I personally, deal with children in the roughest part of Indianapolis. And you can't go in there without mentors, tutors, student advisors who are black men coming into these schools to work with these kids. That's on a daily basis. Now, are they the actual teachers and educators of the kids? No, they're not. But they're community members who are committed to seeing these kids be the best they can be. But as far as your question about why aren't there more African American teachers, it's a valid question to ask, and it's something we've got to be more proactive about dealing with.
Yeah, and I got to jump off here a little bit. I just wanted to ask you this one question here, and I think this is a question that a lot of people have been wanting to know about. We as black men, as young African American men, why don't we pride ourselves in carrying ourselves professionally by the way that we relate with people and by the way that we dress? Why is it that when you go to a certain place like the Grammy Awards or a place like that, I mean, you see it. Why is it that we as black men, why is it that the black community will only put on a suit and tie when they are going for a job, when they're trying to get a job for an interview, or they got to go in front of a judge as a defendant? Okay. And why is it that our young black men feel as though excessive jewelry, sag pants, unruly facial hair, why do we feel as though, why does the community feel that that's okay? And do you think that there should be more effort done to say, look, dude, we got to start cleaning ourselves up. We got to start dressing the part, acting the part, talking the part, walking the part. Because when a white person says that, he is now a racist. He can't say that because that's being racist. When a black person says that, he's being a coon and an Uncle Tom. He's being a sellout, and he's trying to pander for white racists. So do you think that black people, do you think that blacks should be, do you think that we should the question is
hold young black kids accountable for acting like idiots? That's what you asked.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. I would say that, would you say that the way a lot of young black men and women dress, talk, act, and carry themselves contribute to the stereotype?
Oh, absolutely it does. Yeah, it does. But there again is the influence or the pull oftentimes in our community of pop culture. And when you balance, or when you have an imbalance of a heavy influence of pop culture and a lack of influence in terms of lack of fathers, then you're going to have the pop culture having more influence over a kid. You're going to have Fetty Wap and Migos and the rest of them having more influence on a kid's impression of himself than his father, because his father's not there. If his father's not there to give him an image of what a sharp-dressed, articulate African-American male looks like, then there's no counterbalance to VH1. And when VH1 is the dominant narrative in his life, you can't be surprised if he has actualized in his head this as the proper way to behave. We've got to unplug him from the matrix and get him out of that.
Good. So what you're saying is that the reason why our community is not progressing on right now is it's pretty much the fault the fault falls on us as a community, does it not?
No, nice try. No, don't try that. No, that's not what.
No.
But,
Well, let me finish what I'm saying. Finish what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm saying that the reason why the schools have a shortage or have a drought of a shortage of educated Black professors and teachers, of Black men, of Black mentors to these inner city kids, of fathers, of role models, doesn't that come back to us as Black men?
Yes and no.
Would you agree? Would you agree that the weakest link in the Black community, the weakest or the strongest link in the Black community, is the Black male? Correct.
Say that again, so I can think about it while you're saying it. The weakest link or the strongest link is the Black male. So
right now, who do you think right now in this current day and age is the weakest link in the Black community?
Who do I think is the weakest link in the Black community? I don't know how to answer that. I'd say the person that is most absent, the person who is most needed in the Black community.
But mostly though, but listen, but mostly though, wouldn't it be the Black male?
Wouldn't it be the Black male that what is most needed?
No, yeah. Wouldn't you say that? Wouldn't you say, or wouldn't you agree, that if we had the Black males in the Black community pulling their weight, educating their young boys and girls, moving out of the hood, right? Raising these young men to their fullest potential, wouldn't you agree that situations would be much different?
Yes. I absolutely agree with that statement.
So wouldn't you agree that in order to make changes and in order to make progress, it has nothing to do with government. It has really nothing to do with the criminal justice system. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with Black men stepping up and say, look, I'm going to be the man for my wife, for my family, and for my children. I'm moving out of the hood. I'm going to put them in a good school. I'm going to give them a good education. And I'm going to teach them the way that they should go. Wouldn't you agree?
So I think it's
just a yes or no question.
Well, no. I think so. You're trying to make
so that's all.
You're trying to make it either or.
So no, that's fine.
Look,
I gotta run. Look, I gotta go. I gotta go.
Make it a both ends.
Listen, look, I gotta go. I gotta run. I got things to do. I'm way overdue. That's all I wanted to know. All I wanted to know is if you would agree that the Black community rests on our shoulders as Black men, and you said you wouldn't agree. So that's all I needed. That's literally all I needed.
No, I didn't say that. But I didn't say that. No, what I said is
look,
you can't make
it was great.
It's got to be both and, Kevin. It's got to be both and. I agree 100% that we as men and our community has to step up. But it's not an either or, it's both and. There is a systemic precedent that leads to why we're here. On the flip side of that, there is ownership within our community that we as men, that you and I and fathers across America who look like you and I have to take and have to be willing to look in the mirror and look at other Black men and say, we need to do this. There are also issues with education, with the Department of Education, with underfunding, with disproportionality in terms of quality teachers being pumped into these schools. That doesn't exist in a vacuum. You and I can be the best fathers in the world, and if we are living in a community where our schools are underfunded, that's a totally separate issue. So all I'm saying is what you're saying about African American men is correct, but there's a flip side to that coin that we have to be just as honest about. That's all. But I feel you. You got to run. I got to run. So, I mean, I appreciate us having this conversation. It's been real, man. There was no barbs traded finally. So, you know. Yeah.
So one more question: Do you vote Democrat or do you vote Republican?
I am a lifelong liberal, brother.
Democrat.
I wear that with a badge of honor.
Democrat. Lifelong liberal. Democrat. Progressive. Progressive.
I would define myself as a liberal. I don't use the word progressive. My
Socialist.
worldview, how I see the world, how I solve problems, is rooted in a liberal perspective.
And how has that worked? How has that worked? It's been working good. It's been
how
has
liberalism worked?
It's worked. Well, it's worked.
It's the struggle continues, brother. Rome wasn't built in a day. Neither is our unique experiment of America.
So do we need more government? Is what you're saying? We need more government or less government?
Do we need more government? I don't know what that means. What do you mean?
Do we need more government? Like, do we need more government programs and stuff like that? Or do we need less government?
I don't know that we need more or less. I think that what we're doing right now needs to just be reworked.
I think we need. Okay, so, all right. So you're not sure if we need more or less government. So you're a liberal. Why are you a liberal? Just real quick. Why are you a liberal? What about
because
liberal ideology? In what sense? Are you fiscally liberal, socially liberal? Like, you can be.
I see the world. To me, the definition of a liberal is someone who sees the world as interconnected, meaning that if I am someone who sees someone doing bad and hurting in some way, shape, or form, that's going to trickle back to me hurting. I don't know how. I can't explain how. But if they're doing bad, somehow, some way, it's going to affect my life or the world around me. And on the flip side of the coin, if I can help them, or if there's some way that I can help them do better, then that trickles down and has a ripple effect to community at large. So we're all invested in each other as one family. And I'm talking both nationally and globally, that as each man does better, it trickles down to those of us who aren't directly connected to that individual. And that, for me, that's how I
wouldn't say that's really my definition.
Go ahead.
Of a liberal, but I mean that's okay. So big happy. So you're obviously a big socialist. Then you're a big socialist.
No, I don't believe in socialism. I believe that
what? You don't believe in socialism. You just got done giving me this 20-30 second rant about how we're one big happy family and we're all supposed to help each other. And if somebody else is hurting, it's supposed to trickle down. You're not. What?
That means socialism? That means socialism to you?
That's socialism.
Me caring about the welfare of my fellow man means socialism to you?
Well, you said we're one big happy family.
To you? Seeing
that's
everybody
socialism.
as my fellow brother and fellow sister means socialism to you? Really?
So you're saying
I didn't say that because you and I are brothers, you owe me $20 now. That would be socialism. What I'm saying is that because you're my brother,
no. You're just saying
You're just listening.
You're just saying no. That is what you're saying. You're pretty much saying that if I have $20 and you don't have any money, I should get. If I have $40 and you don't have any money, I should give you $20. I should give you $20, right?
No, not at all. I'm saying,
but why not? Because if I'm hurt, like
you asked me a question,
I'm not understanding.
You let me answer you. If you don't have $20, I want to equip you or put you in a position where you are economically stable. I care about.
But should you be forced to? But should you be forced to by the government? Should you be forced to?
That's socialism. I'm not a socialist. I didn't say that. You're saying that. You're attempting to put that definition on me. I never said that. What I said is I care about.
You said we're one big happy family.
We are.
So you think that the homeless guy and the Fortune 500 CEO are on the same level in society?
They're both human beings. You're damn right about it. Yes.
But are they on the same level? But are they on the same level though in society? Are they on the same level?
What do you mean on the same level?
You said we're one big happy family, but we're really not.
We are.
So no, we're not. Listen,
okay.
Let me tell you something. You go get a job, and you go get a job. Who do you want to work for? Do you want to work for a homeless guy, or do you want to work for a CEO of a Fortune 500 company?
A homeless guy wouldn't have a company, so that's a nonsensical
But
question.
we're all one big happy family, though. We're all the same.
We are. Okay. So what are you saying? You're right. We are one big happy family. So it's called.
We're not. We're not one big happy family. We're not. It's just, and if we're
and
not,
that's a conservative point of view. I mean, I can respect that. You don't see the welfare of your fellow man as your concern. I get that. That's always been the conservative point of view. I am going to get mine. What my success is dependent on me. I don't care if you fail. That has been a conservative mantra since conservatism existed. I get it. I'm just saying that as a liberal, I see the world as, if you hurt, I want to figure a way to help you not hurt. I don't want to give you a fish. I want to teach you how to fish. It is beneficial to me and society at large that you learn how to fish, as opposed to me saying, well,
I understand
that's not my problem.
So why are
Kevin
you?
doesn't know how to fish.
But at the same time, you just told me that when you have somebody that's hurting, that's going to trickle down to you, and somehow that's going to affect you.
Yes. Yes.
So, but
you don't understand that?
I understand it, brother.
Okay, so if you're on the East Coast somewhere, if a guy doesn't have a job, doesn't have an education, is on the street and needs money, and we take the attitude, that's not my problem, he better figure it out for himself, and he goes out and commits a crime. Now, obviously, he's supposed to be punished for that, and he should be, but what if he punishes somebody that you know? Or, I mean, what if he attacks somebody that you know? What if he does something to you? What if he does something to somebody who means something to you? On the flip side of that coin, if we see that brother standing at the gas station and he doesn't have a job and it looks like he's up to no good, and we take an interest in that brother and say, hey, man, why don't you go to this job training program? Let me, we've had this funding for this entrepreneurial program to teach you about business. And then he starts a business, and then he starts a business, and that business pumps money into the community that benefits both you and I.
Brother, yes, I understand that. But what you just explained is that's conservatism. That's a hand up.
What? No, it's not.
Hold on. Let me finish what I'm saying. That's a hand up. Listen, that's a hand up, not a handout, is it not? It's saying that I'm going to give you, look, it's pretty much saying that, hello, it's pretty much saying that I'm not going to give you a fish.
Okay.
Listen, hold on. Let me finish what I'm saying. So pretty much,
I'm listening.
You're saying I'm not going to give you a fish, but I'm going to teach you how to fish, right? But that's conservatism.
Yeah.
So you're
Where?
really, what do you mean?
Where? In what universe?
It's a conservative value. You work hard for what you want in life. Liberals say, no. We're not going to give him that opportunity, whatever. We're just going to give him a handout. You come and sign up with our homeless, our homeless for a brighter future cause, and we'll give you $2,000 a month.
Homeless for a brighter future cause, huh? You just make that up on the fly.
You're really dude. I don't know. I mean, I don't know, man. Look, I'm gonna let you go. I'm really confused now because I'm so confused. Look, man.
Conservatism has always been rooted in rugged individualism, brother. You know that. Conservatism has always said that I'm not.
Look, liberalism.
Go ahead.
Dude,
go ahead.
Look, I don't think there's first of all, liberalism is, I have a lot of friends who are liberal, okay? Liberal.
Okay.
I was raised in a conservative family, but I've also, when I was growing up, I probably had a little bit more of a left-leaning, or more of a liberal outlook on life, right? Okay. But what I realized is that liberalism is just an ism, and I don't like ism, right? I'm a conservative, right? I believe in limited government, wish we didn't have any government, okay? Less regulation, less taxes, fiscal responsibility, and free markets. That's what I believe on. That's what I believe in. And I
So
believe in capitalism. But what I'm trying to say is socialism is no longer a hand up, it's a handout.
yeah,
Handout.
but I'm
You get
not
a
a
fish.
socialist.
You get a fish. I get a fish. Everybody gets a fish. You get a fish. I get a fish. He gets a fish. She gets a fish. They get a fish. Everybody gets a fish. Right? I'd rather say, look, here's a fishing rod. Go. I'm going to teach you how to fish. I'm going to feed you for a lifetime. Bro, honestly, socialism sucks. It sucks.
I've never said you can keep talking about socialism all you want.
I wish.
I've never said anything about being a socialist.
But that's what liberalism is. That's what
No,
I wish I could have a dialogue with you and Charlie Kirk, because Charlie Kirk, he would destroy you. I mean, Charlie Kirk would literally annihilate you to where you would never ever come on. You would never ever come on camera again.
Well, it's
Charlie
not about
Kirk,
being annihilated or
yeah,
or
but
winning.
Charlie Kirk, Charlie Kirk would destroy you. He would literally destroy you in every single aspect of,
But
you know.
see,
And I'd never see you again.
there again, you're approaching this discussion from a conservative point of view, because conservatism in your mind says that there has to be someone annihilated or destroyed, and there has to be a winner or a loser. I'm here for an exchange of ideas, brother, and to learn from your perspective, and hopefully you learn from mine. You can say socialism all you want. You can keep trying to paint me with that.
You're a socialist. You're a socialist.
I will say over and over again, I am not a socialist, and liberals are not socialists. Just like you have extremes on the far right.
Oh, liberals
Just
are
like
socialists.
you have extremes on the far right.
Show me a liberal
Politician
politician that isn't a socialist.
Doesn't mean that the primary foundation
Show me a liberal
liberalism
politician.
is socialism.
Show me a liberal politician that isn't. Show me a liberal politician that isn't a socialist.
President Obama.
Name one.
President Obama.
President Obama wasn't a socialist.
No. And you can't tell me one policy that was socialist in his administration. Not one.
President Obama wasn't a socialist.
Give me one policy that indicates he was a socialist. Take your time. I'll wait.
Listen, so you're saying President Obama wasn't a socialist. So President Obama was a capitalist is what you're saying.
I just asked you a simple question. Give me an example of a policy that was socialist in nature. Just give me one. Just one.
Obamacare.
How is that socialist? How is that socialist? How is that socialism, rather?
How is it not? The people that can't afford it, we give it to them for free. The people that can, we rape them and knock them over the head for their premiums and for the deductibles. Isn't that socialist? Isn't it? Isn't it? No, I'm just saying.
No, it's not. It's not even
okay.
Close to socialism.
Okay. All right.
It's not even. That was a nice try, man. That was a nice try.
Listen. So we take a program here. So we take a program, and we say, look, if you can't afford it, that's okay. You get it for free. You got it. However, if you're making extra money, we're gonna beat you over the head for those premiums.
Are you?
So the people that can't afford it, we're gonna give it to them for free. How is that not socialist?
Okay, let's understand a few things here, so I understand where you're coming from.
Are you
saying that people who can't afford medical care shouldn't get treated?
No, people that are on welfare. People that are on welfare.
Huh?
People that are on welfare, on government assistance.
Okay, I'm saying poor people who are genuinely poor and cannot afford medical care. It's your position that they shouldn't get medical treatment, that we shouldn't try to figure out a way to care for them?
I think each situation should be assessed individually.
Yeah, I agree. But I'm saying, okay, let me give you a specific. If you have a specific individual who genuinely is poor and
Here, I'm back. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay.
So do you want to pay for it? Do
I want to, or am I willing to?
If I decide that I don't want to work, I don't want to go to work, I don't want to go to work. I just don't want to go to work. And I go down to the welfare office and I sign up for welfare, and I'm given welfare. Should you have to pay extra for your welfare to ensure that I get it for free?
No.
So how was Obamacare any different?
Because you're assigning that laziness of that one person to the entire group of individuals who can't afford health care, and that's not fair. You know that's not true. You know that's not an accurate representation of the poor who can't afford medical care. You know that. If we were to take your argument literally, you're saying that every poor person who is poor doesn't want to not be poor, doesn't want to not work, and is just leeching off of those of us who pay into the system. That's not fair, man. You know that's not true. Come on now.
So I'm just going to read to you. So you're saying that President Obama was a capitalist?
Yes. He was. He was a left-leaning. Well, let me ask you this: are you saying that Are you saying that us liberals can't be capitalists?
Yo,
is that your premise?
Listen, all that regulation. He's a capitalist. Pages and pages and pages of legislation. Pages and pages and pages of government regulation.
So regulation means you can't be a capitalist?
Oh, man.
Regulation means you can't be a capitalist?
Okay.
That's your position?
Well, look, man, my IQ is starting to just go down, man. I can feel my IQ just leaving my body, continuing on with these conversations.
Listen, man. Truth has a funny way.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
Defensive, man. I get it.
Obama, a capitalist. Okay, but listen, look, it was great to have you on the show, man. I'm gonna have to let you go. I feel like have you ever talked to somebody and you just felt your IQ just getting lower and lower and lower?
No, I haven't.
Well, that's how I'm feeling right now. I don't know what it is, but anyway.
I mean, like I said, I appreciate the conversation. I see now that it's kind of devolving into the slick talk, and I'm not gonna go there.
Yeah.
It's interesting to have differing opinions, and oftentimes when you have different opinions and you start hitting people with facts, and they can't refute those facts, they come back with slick talk and undercutting. I get it. I understand that. That's where the conversation devolved to. So peace, man.
Okay. Anyway, thanks for coming on, everybody. I really appreciate you guys coming on. It was a great debate.